start our conversation around communication. And we have a sort of a wide array of people in the room today. So there we go, perfect. So the tool we're going to use is DisC. So we'd asked on numerous occasions all of you to have your DisC profile with you one way or another today so you can understand your scoring in the category that you fall in. So hopefully everybody has followed that direction. If you don't and you're unsure, you can kind of quietly sneak towards the back of the room, although we'll see you, and ask Laura. She's got a one-pager that will at least give you your dominant traits from a DisC standpoint. But the idea is that as we talk through this today, we're going to be using DisC as a communication vehicle for learning how to communicate. And so I want to just start with why. Why is it so unbelievably important to have a behavioral communication process inside your business, and why do we use DisC? So we use DisC because it's simple. That's really the first reason, right? Simple, it's easy to understand, and you can build skill in that specific category. The reason it is important is because we all speak different languages. And I don't just mean one person speaks Russian and the other one speaks Turkish. I mean, we literally all communicate, hear, and receive things based on our own behavioral profile, and it can make a real difference when you understand that and have taught yourself how to communicate with someone when you understand their DisC profile. For those of you who have been around me a lot, you'll hear this scenario of, I would liken it to taking two people and sticking them in a room, and one of them speaks English and the other one speaks Chinese. And then you go achieve something together. Go grow your business together. That's no different than taking a high D and saying, go make some real progress with a high S. That's English and Chinese right there in the room. What's that?
Or C.
Or a C, right? But there's some similarities, and more similarities between a D and a C than there are a D and an S, right? So the idea here is we're going to spend some time on DisC today. This is, as I think all of you who have come, for the last couple of events, we try to spend some time in the morning focusing on education. And there's a theme that I've been talking about with many of you, and I think it'll resonate. And it's this: what got you here won't get you there. And that is because a lot of the businesses in the room built their business on their back. So they got to a certain point doing a lot of stuff and grabbing some people and saying, come on, let's go, and they followed. And that can work. But the next phase of this, to get the business to the next tier, to be, that 10, 20, 30, $50 million business that you've truly scaled, or if it's 500, 1 million, whatever the objectives are, you have to start to learn how to lead through other people. And the only way you're going to do that is when you learn how to effectively communicate with them. So DisC helps us understand. It's a framework. I love systems. DisC is a framework of how each profile interprets and understands things. Is it exact? Is it perfect? Is every single aspect that's listed out there, for those that look at it that way, are all of them 100% on point? No. There's a few that are off, but the profiles are spot on. And I've been working with tools like this for almost 30 years, and no one has ever gotten an assessment and said, that's not me. They just find like one or two little fine points, right? That maybe it isn't. So we learn to understand ourselves and others. We learn how to identify what other people need, right? So if you get good at picking up people's DisC profiles and qualities, what can you do? If you understand someone's profile and quality, what can you do?
Connect and communicate with them.
It's nice to meet you, by the way.
Hey,
Arif.
nice to meet you.
You can connect with them, right? Why can you connect with them? Because you speak their language, right? So one of the most important things is understanding that. And there's ways that you can pick up on people's profiles. Looked like I screwed this up, but I guess I didn't. And then the last is the adapt, right? So as a leader, I was speaking to a room, actually it was Piper's son again. I was speaking to a group that he had put together at his college. And there's about 40 or 50 kids in there. And we were talking about DisC, because I love to talk about DisC. And doing sort of a communication. They were all in this business entrepreneurial course, and they wanted to work on communication. And one of the kids in the back of the room, high D for sure, said, Arif, why do I have to adapt my style to them if I'm the boss? Why can't they just adapt their style to me? It was not your son, by the way, Piper. All right? And it's the reason that Bobby just shared with us. Because if you are the communicator, then it is your responsibility to make sure that the message you want delivered is effectively delivered. Who loses if they don't get on board with the way you communicate? You or them? Right. You lose, right? So no one, and this is another rule that I attach to DisC, lose the concept that someone misunderstood you. If you are the responsible person who is communicating, they didn't misunderstand, you miscommunicated. And you have to take that responsibility. That little tweak in how you interact and operate with others will change so much. Spouse, kids, business partners, leads. I've said from day one, if you could, before you go to that altar, take a DisC assessment and have like a little lesson on how to communicate with one another, that would be fantastic, right? To truly sort of learn what would work and what wouldn't. Getting a little smirks because we got some relationships in the room here. So important things to understand. So for those of you who are not overly experienced with DisC, let's just do a little bit of education on what we have here, right? So DisC is needs motivated. It's an observable pattern and behavior and emotion. And it combines, when it's all said and done, inherent nature and learned nature. It is not a cognitive assessment. So sometimes people are like, I don't want to take it. I don't want my boss to think I'm this or think I'm that. There's no cognitive to it whatsoever, right? It's all behavior. And it's not an indicator of values, okay? And you can build skill, okay? So I have a certain profile. And over the years, honed in on what my strengths were, but focused on building a skill in where my opportunity was, because it was difficult for that to be my opportunity and be successful in business all in the same. So this is what DisC is. So let's get a little bit of explanation. So D, the D stands for dominance, okay? So high D, and I speak this way, right? So I will describe them all at their sort of greatest extent. So a high D is someone who you're going to see as more dominant. They love problems, they love challenges, they want to fix things, they want to get things done, they want to be in charge. High I. This is an individual who loves to influence people, right? Likes to motivate, likes to inspire. People and contacts are really, really important to these individuals. So I always liken a high I to a plant, right? If you take a plant, you stick it in a room, and you take away water, food, and sunlight, what happens to the plant? Dies. Well, do that with a high I. The same thing will happen. They need people around them. It's really, really important. Keep going around the circle, we come to S. So S is that steady group. They like pace, they like consistency, they like a routine. It's very, very important to them. They will do what they need to do for the team, but they're not going to be the first one that runs out. Follow me. They're not going to be that follow me group, but if they think that stepping forward will make an impact and move the team and that people will benefit from it, they absolutely will do that. And then we've got C, the conscientious group, right? So this is procedures, constraints, black and white, right and wrong, systems, very clear, very consistent. Most important thing to them is accuracy and doing things right the first time, taking your time. What does a team need, a successful team need? All four. What do most people do when they go interview? Hire what they're attracted to. What are people attracted to? Themselves. So what's the biggest mistake that happens in hiring? Hiring yourself. Bobby actually said that well this morning when he was doing his wind wall. He hired to his weaknesses. It's the smartest thing you can do. It's a tough interview, though, if you interview looking for someone that I really relate to them. Cool, don't hire them. Right? That's not the person that you need on your team. That's not going to move you and your business forward. So this is a really good thing to understand as you all work to build a business that works without you. We are here because the majority of the people in the room still have jobs, but everybody's interested in having a business. You don't report to anybody, right, as the business owner, but it's still a job. Until you can have a story like Karen did for the month, maybe not all of Karen's story for the month of April, but the one where it worked, right? And the business was making things happen. Dean, for those of you who know Dr. Dean, I'm going to digress for a moment just to sort of highlight this. Dr. Dean's been out of the business for 8 weeks, 9 weeks. Business had its best quarter ever, his first month out. The business, that business has grown over the last couple of years significantly. And when you circle back about, a month and a half ago, I was introduced to a chiropractor who said, I don't really know what to do. As you know, COVID ruined all of our businesses, and went on this whole tangent about what COVID did and why he couldn't. What was he, by the way, from our earlier slide? Below the point, like massively below the point. Finally, because most of you know me, I got to a point where I was like, this is ridiculous. I have a client who's literally quadrupled his business over this time period. Everything you're saying is an excuse. Do you really want to have a conversation about how you're going to move your business forward? He did not. And we have not spoken since. And that's okay, right? Because that's not my space, right? I can't help somebody who sees things that way. But the idea is Dean surrounded himself with people who do things differently. And there are moments where it drives him absolutely insane. Absolutely insane. Because they don't see things the way he wants them to. But he was able to go have his entire spine replaced, which again, none of us would want that to be the reason, and allow his business to grow and continue to move in a positive direction. And hopefully we'll see him back here in September. So this is super important. So we'll talk today a little bit about the categories to give you some education. And Joe, right before the breakout group, that folder should get passed out because that's their little cheat sheets. So platinum rule. Somebody give me a read here. Carol, you're closest to it. Yeah.
The platinum rule. Do unto others as they would have you do unto them. Can have a positive effect on almost every aspect of managing and leading others. With each of the 4 DisC profile behavioral types, for example, there's a different way to communicate and delegate tasks to them, compliment and correct them, or motivate and counsel them.
I didn't choose you specifically. I could have chosen anyone. Right? So an important thing to think through is we look to move and scale. Okay? So positional power versus personal power. Bill, take the positional power side.
That's just what it sounds like. You're the CEO, owner, or manager responsible for the performance of others, and a certain amount of power authority comes with the title.
Right. So the kid in the back of the room, why don't, if they work for me, why don't they just have to listen to me? That's the positional power. And they do, to a certain extent, right? I mean, if they work there, they really should be doing what it is you ask them to do, right? Kev, read personal power for me.
Position power comes from being anointed by the hierarchy, but personal power comes from earning and developing.
Right. So when we have a business, whether we own it or not, we still have the responsibility of earning and developing the respect of the people who work for us. Because we're the communicator wanting to get a result from those individuals. And it's really important. So combining positional and personal power is your success path towards being able to get the most out of your people. Commitment versus compliance. So the kid in the back of the room could get compliance, meaning I do my job. What time does that clock say? 4:56. Where's this guy going at 5? Home. That's why compliance has the clock and he's ready to roll. Right? But when you get commitment because you've made a personal connection with people and they want to win along with you, maybe they stay till 5:15 because they had to, because you needed them to, because they wanted to. So the idea here is we want to go from compliance to commitment, right? And see the difference between that commitment continuum. We move people when we show them we care, when we take the time to speak to them in a language that they can hear and respond to. And there's still the almighty dollar in the end when we fairly compensate them, right, with things. And that's part of the commitment category, right? I will do more if there's an opportunity for me to gain and earn more, either developmentally or financially. My saying, for those of us who have been around together for a while, will stay here. What got you here won't get you there. Changes need to happen. Dr. Shapiro stood up, really proud. They got a surgeon. It's been something that they've been working on for a while. He's got to transition from hands in people or on a robot, right, to a hand on the back of a new surgeon who's coming in that he's going to have to mentor and develop in the language that that gentleman needs to hear and process things from, which is a totally different thing, right? Because up until now, the world has revolved around Dr. Shapiro and what he needs to be able to process and run that business, right? I call it a business. I mean, it is in the end. So let's talk about how we learn it. All right, so pens, paper, all in front of you. I encourage you to use the 4 colors. It's there for a reason, right? For you digital folks, there is a difference between handwriting things and using digital, because when you handwrite, you are actually taking something from the pen and putting it in your brain. When you use different colors, you process it different. It's proven. So those pens and pads are in front of you for a reason when you're starting to think about profiles, and we have a little bit of a breakout, so you might want to have some notes as it relates to some of the things that we're covering here. So let's talk about developing people, all right? So developing the D style. So what's the D style? Dominant. What does a D want? Most important. Be in charge, results, control. They want to achieve their goal, right? So what are you going to do with a D? You're going to focus on big picture. You're going to cover basic steps. Cameras, photos of these will be helpful for you guys as well. Plus, we'll absolutely pass this out afterwards. Show them the simplest, fastest route to their stated destination. You have to demonstrate that you have value to a D, or they have no interest in you. You're just in their way, right? And you have to do it fast, because they don't want to listen to you droning on about it either, right? So as I'm explaining this, you're going to start seeing faces of people, right, in your life, right? It's going to start to make sense if you haven't spent, Joe's looking at me, if you haven't spent time, in here, right? Tell them what is to be done by when, help them find shortcuts, okay? So that's the D, super clear, super direct. I can help you achieve your goal. That's what's going to happen. I, release information in chunks. Why? What's an I? People, I don't think I touched on this, so I will say I's are high emotion, right? So a super high I, super high emotion. They make decisions emotionally, they interact emotionally until they learn, right, that needs to tweak a bit. So I, you release informations in chunks because they want to be focused on the relationship, not data and like stuff getting thrown at them over and over and over. You got to skip the boring stuff. Get them involved kinesthetically. So a lot of I's are kinesthetic learners. Kinesthetic learners are people who learn by doing, right? They have to do it, they got to feel it, they got to touch it. That's how they're going to make things happen. Slow to criticize, quick to praise. The 80-20 rule, as it relates to I's, they're the most important people to make sure you apply it. 80% compliment, 20% developmental feedback. And I know it's hard. So 8 out of 10 times you have to be developing and lifting an I up to make progress on the 2 things that you want to make progress on. Let them teach concepts to others. This is another way to develop them. Why do you let them teach concepts to others? Well, they know what they're doing, and they are people, and they're kinesthetic learners. What happens when you teach something? You got to learn it. You want an eye to learn something? Make them teach it. That's a way to get them to really, really start to understand. S. So S, by the way, just for another reminder, I know some of you have heard this before. I and D's are fast. So when you're looking to identify someone's profile when you're working on communication, a D and an I is going to move fast. They move fast. They move their hands. They talk fast. They communicate quickly. They're always looking to go somewhere and do something. Okay? So something that you can really sort of pick up on. S and C have a more steady pace, thus the name steady for S, right? They're not as fast. Imagine a D and an I running through a business and the S and the C running behind them, picking up all the shit they dropped, because that is really what is happening in that space, which is why you need all 4, right? Again, just a genuine reminder of why you need all 4. So the S style, right? Hands-on instruction. Let them observe before trying. They don't love change, so you need to give them time and you need to explain why change is going to be happening. Allow plenty of repetition for their actions. Use a pleasant and patient approach, right? Take your time with the S. With the C, you have to make sure that you go from A to Z. Don't jump in at E because they need to be at A. They got to understand the why and the process because they're going to make sure it's done right. But if you start them at E, it's not going to get done right? And that's going to be a problem. So take your time. Explain the efficiency, the logical reasons. Proceed slowly. Ask for input. Really important. Okay, that's developing. I give you a couple of different examples. How do you adapt your communication style? So whatever you are, this speaks to how you would adapt as the communicator, right? So again, another important component. So communicating with a D style. Prepare to do a lot of listening, right? Because that's what you want. You want to be able to hear that D. Find areas where you agree, because that's important. Work backwards towards gaining an agreement. A little example is, Sarah, this format will give you the freedom, important word, to develop your own branch, your way, but still allow Vern and Ellen to structure theirs differently without sacrificing time or morale. Because D's can sacrifice morale if someone's in their way, right? Because if you're in their way, they are going to run you over, period. Because they're going to achieve their goal. And we need them. Right? We need a D to move forward and get that achieved. You got to take time and listen to their stories. They want to connect with you. It's important. That's how you're going to get the most out of an I, right? Is by taking time and really sort of working through that. They need time to socially connect and engage. Their style requires open and responsive interaction. Just between you and me, Chris, I feel very uneasy about Jill and Howard handling this account by themselves. So an emotional statement that would connect to an I so they hear you, right? S, be ready to do more talking than listening because they're going to sit there quiet for a while, particularly if they don't want to be participating, right? An I will always fill the room, a D will cut you short and leave, an S will stay, but they'll be silent, right? And that will happen for a period of time. Clarify the agenda, stay organized. Move forward steadily but slowly. Did you want me to stick around the office at a particular time in case you need help with this specific thing, right? Offering assistance and support. That's going to make an impact and really help. Communication with C styles. You got to be organized. A C does not respect disorganization. And because they're black and white and see things clearly, if you're disorganized, it is a problem, right? So again, as the person who is looking to successfully communicate with a C profile, you then have to make sure that you take the time to be structured and organized and have those logical conclusions. Lenny, you're interested in the auditor's position or in any of the new positions posted, and if so, what do you need from me to help you move forward? So very clear, very direct. Here's the opportunities. How can I help you? Answer the question. You'll get a very specific answer back. Motivating your people. Motivating D styles, okay? Lead with the big picture. If you do this, you're going to make $1 million. They'll listen. All 4 profiles will listen to that, really, when it's all said and done. Provide them with options and clearly describe the probabilities of success. Set boundaries, but let them take charge. You want a D on your team and you're not the D? Say, this is what we need to achieve. These are the boundaries in which you need to stay in. You can't steal, you can't do this, whatever it's going to be. Go. That's one of the biggest things that I see go wrong inside business is when someone hires a D, they don't let the D be a D. So then they don't get the value of it, right? Because they're to this or they're to that, instead of just putting boundaries on it. Like, you can go and achieve whatever it is you want. You just can't hurt people's feelings along the way, right? So make sure that you stay focused on that. Motivating the I's. Provide special incentives to inspire them to go, right? Most important thing to an I, by the way, if you have an I reporting to you, is that you like them and that you feel like they are contributing in a really, really good way. If that happens, they're going to give you the moon. They will continue to fight for you all the way through if you make sure that they feel valued, appreciated, and that there's a good relationship there. When you treat them any way other than that, because there's a sensitivity there, high emotion, you lose fast. You could, and I could go from 100 to 0 just like that. Just like that. Show them how they can look good in the eyes of others. Reward them in front of others. Let them speak about their achievements. S, motivating an S. Show them how their work will benefit others, because that's important. They want to support those around them. They want to do well. Show them how the outcome will provide security for themselves, their family, their team. Get them to see how their follow-through links to a greater good, and show how it can strengthen a relationship with others. That's very, very important, right? And then motivating the C, appeal to their need for accuracy and logic. Keep that approach clear and clean and precise. It's very important. And show them how this is the best available current option. And with a C, no exaggeration, no guessing, because if you're wrong, you're screwed. Right? Because then you immediately judged as they said this thing, it wasn't right, and now I don't trust them. That happens very fast with a C, right? So it's important to understand. Last one, complimenting. Mention their achievements as it relates to a D, because they're goal-oriented, right? So it's an important thing. Omit personal comments and focus on track record, right? So, Jones, you've exceeded your company's goal every month for the past year and have put more hours in than anybody but the top officials here. The CEO has his eye on you for an upcoming VP slot, right? Super clear. That's what the D wants. He wants that spot. I's, pay direct personal compliments to them, legitimately deserved. Mention their charm, because that makes a difference, right? Friendliness, creativity. They willingly accept general praise. We're lucky to have you with us, D. You make a real impact on the team. S, speak to them about what matters, which is that they're a good team player, that they're a good mentor, right? That they're someone who really is making a difference. Remark about what other people feel towards them and how well they get along with the coworkers, right? C, mention their efficiency through process. Don't mix personal and professional. Compliments don't mean much to me. A genuine, heartfelt thank you and being given the space to do things right is important. I've lied. One more. Delegating. Bottom line for a high D, so they can be more efficient. We need to get that mall built a month sooner or we'll lose our shirts. 14 tenants are threatening to bail out of their contracts. If we don't open in time for the holidays, we're going to spend another $30,000. Keep everything legal and out of the newspapers. Get back to me by Monday morning. BS, but very, very direct and clear, right? I, receive clear agreements. Set up checkpoints. So important for an I to have milestones, boundaries, due dates. You also, leading an I, need to check in that they're going to make their due date, because often they won't. S, more reluctant to ask others to do their own share. They'd like to do it themselves and move at a good, steady pace. So you have to help them understand how it develops others, the more they do that. And with a C, taking time to answer the most critical questions, really giving them the time to sort of build out a process. The more they understand the details, the more likely they're going to be happy to get it done. Establish deadlines if you have a pace that you want to be able to move forward on, but make sure that it's a reasonable, agreed upon deadline. So, we're going to go and spend some time in groups. And the idea is Laura's going to announce how your groups are sort of broken up. And as you see up here, there's 4 scenarios. We want everybody to have an opportunity to be the boss. The boss is the one doing the work, right? So it can be a boss with a lead. You can pick any one of these 4. Employee wants an off-cycle raise. How do we handle? Boss wants an employee to improve performance in sales. What does the conversation need to sound like? You're engaging with a lead. How will you speak their language to determine if they're a good fit for you and your business? Or a client is unhappy with their experience. How will you show that you heard them and rectify? Boss is going to hear, I'm making this easier on you guys today, right? My original idea was make you do some quick introductions and then guess their profile, but the individual is going to tell you their profile. You have your cheat sheets that Joe is passing around now. That will kind of give you those little tips as it relates to how you communicate. But the idea is you're going to pick one of these, learn the profile of the other individual, role play. Table's going to give feedback on how well you stayed within the lane of how that person is going to receive. Everybody gets 3 minutes or so to do the role play and sort of work through it once the explanation is there. And we'll spend about 25 minutes here. We got plenty of time to make up on the end, so we're good here. Questions? Who does not have a DisC profile? Because I know a few people didn't get it done on time. All right. Have you ever done it? Yeah, I'm going ID. I'm going ID. Yeah. I'm going ID for Bobby. What would you take a guess on? Oh, we have yours. Yeah. Laura. So Laura's going to announce the breakout of the groups. And we're going to get you guys, before you leave the room, we're going to get you assigned differently. So you're not going to stay at your tables. So Laura's going to give those assignments out now.